Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 665. I'm Tom Quigley, your host. The Software Process and Measurement Cast 665 features our essay on the organizational aspects that impact teams. Teams don't live in a vacuum. So when the word organization gets used, it reflects the influence of all sorts of organizations. Organizations facilitate teams to a greater or lesser extent. In the workplace, the employer's organization will have the most significant impact on how teams form and perform, but that's not the totality. Other influences can affect the structure and performance of teams. We'll also have a visit from Jon M Quigley, who will bring his Alpha and Omega of Product Development column to the podcast. In this installment, Jon and I discuss the idea of making decisions at the last responsible moment. We decided on the topic just before recording. I am kidding about that. The SPaMCAST will be on its summer hiatus for the next 2 weeks. We'll be re-releasing 2 favorite episodes from the archives to tide you over. In Reread Saturday News, this week we conclude our reading of Monotasking by Stefan Notenberg with the afterword and some final thoughts. The book received my highest accolade for nonfiction books. Very useful. I will have to read the book again in a year or so to see what nuances I missed. I think putting the ideas of the book to use every week drove the ideas home and exposed where I had misinterpreted the book during my first read. In this week's experiment, I was able to move the phone further from the bed. I guess I need to buy an alarm clock and move it outside my room. Did I sleep more? I'm not sure. But I am sure that I was able not to look at the phone until I got up for the day, which was a step at least. I also was able to make sure I used my standing desk more, which helped my energy level near the end of day and made my feet sore a little bit. The poll for the next book in the series has begun. Link in the show notes. Please go there. There are 2 books on the list I have not read yet, and I'm not going to tell you who they are, but they come highly recommended. Therefore, I would be happy to read them with you rather than reread them with you. I will close the poll when I leave radio silence on August 28th. The 5 books, actually these 6 books at this point, McKirsten's Project to Product, Charles Duhigg's The Power of Habit, Tony Buzzone's The Mind Map book. You'll find out if we pick that one how badly I draw. Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference, Douglas Squirrel and Jeffrey Frederick's Agile Conversations, Karen Tanelius and Lisa Gill's Mooseheads on the Table. Link in the show notes to this week's installment and links to all previous installments in the show notes. The SPaMCAST also this week features a promotion for the Agile Online Summit. Tom Henriksen has been a dear friend of the podcast. I really always look forward to attending, learn a lot of new things. There's a link in the show notes to register. Please go there. There are free versions and then there are special versions. Listen to the promo and then use the link in the show notes to register. Teams, Organizational Attributes by Thomas M. Cagley Jr., Megan E. Cagley. Teams don't live in a vacuum. Every team is an intersection of boundaries of all sorts of organizations. Organizations facilitate teams to a greater or lesser extent. In the workplace, the employee's organization will have the most significant impact on how teams form and perform, but that's not the totality. Other organizational influences can affect structure and performance of teams. In the short run, many organizational factors are difficult and slow to change, but not impossible. Many organizational factors might be an affectation of the organization. A few of the most critical attributes to consider are: 1. Does the organization have clear goals that are translated into team performance expectations? Individuals can self-organize and motivate, but teams require some form of external direction to be motivated. 2. Does the organization support team performance? Support includes things like availability of conference rooms or the right software for distributed teams, the right whiteboard to use when you're a distributed team. Good logistics and standards don't just magically happen. The organization needs to spend the time and effort to make them seamless. Do HR policies foster teamwork or individualism? How people in teams are recognized and incented will have a pervasive impact on behavior within teams. One of the most common jokes I hear boils down to the punchline, "I just have to run faster than you." Are leaders trained in leadership skills? Why is that even a question, Tom? First line and middle management are often promoted for being individual contributors without receiving leadership and management training. There are numerous areas of training needed, ranging from facilitation and negotiation to different forms of leadership. First-line leaders, such as team leads and scrum masters, get better results when they act as servant leaders, when they enable the team. However, servant leadership is generally not a leadership style they know. Without training, new leaders will leverage the styles they learn through osmosis. Organizations can influence the effectiveness of teams through action or inaction. I asked several connections on LinkedIn how organizations can impact the effectiveness of teams. Sanjay Shah, principal of ERP Associates, stated, "Teams need quality time to produce quality deliverables. Quality means creating space for heads-down work and allowing people to block their calendar." Tony Timble, founder of BeAgileReady.com, put it succinctly, "Trust them. Trust means teams are empowered and are listened to." Elizabeth Ann Merkinas of ABSA Group urged communication at all levels. Organizations have responsibilities and obligations if they're using teams to get work done. When assessing how to help teams, and there's really no ceiling on excellence, so you can't say we're as good as it gets, you need to understand how to help the overall organization help teams. Thoughts, comments, all welcome. Please feel free to reach out to us at spamcastinfo@gmail.com. And remember, we look forward to the conversation.
Hi, I'm Tom Henriksen from the Agile Online Summit, and I want to invite you to join us on October 25th through the 27th this year. And we're going to have an exciting conference. Now, it is our 5th edition, so of course, it's our 5th edition. We have to do something even better. So we've taken the original format and we actually have included someone this year who's going to help us coach the track chairs. We're going to build in more engagement. So I think you're going to want to join us for the Agile Online Summit on October 25th.
Jon M Quigley, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast.
Hey, Tom. Good to be here again. Thank you for inviting me.
In this session, I would like, from a product development point of view, we talk about a lot about making decisions at the last responsible moment. And, to me, that's a gray area because sometimes the last responsible moment we find out is actually about 5 or 10 moments too late or something. But
6 months ago, maybe.
but the idea is interesting, right? Yeah, it's like, why make a decision up front when we don't have all of the information? So how does that work? How would you actually decide when the last responsible moment might be if you're making decisions about tooling or design or just pretty much anything when you're dealing with product?
Yeah, that's a tough one because it depends on the project and what the project is going to deliver. We have a recurring theme that we have encountered when we've chatted in the past. For example, if you have a customer that wants a launch date somewhere in 2020, let's say it's in 2023, the January 2023, they need the product to come. And let's just say there is tooling involved. Well, the tooling is going to take many weeks in many cases to produce, maybe even up to 6 months to build and vet parts that come off the tooling. So what is the last minute decision point based on it? It kind of depends on things like the lead time for certain things and the expected delivery date or needed or anticipated delivery date for the end product. All that stuff goes into it. Now, why you want to do it, which is a lot easier question to answer than how do you set about or figuring out which ones of these things, when to do it, is because as you do the work, you should be learning. You probably are if you're doing it well. Your team's learning, you're understanding the product, you understand the limits of what you can do, both from the product itself and from maybe the manufacturing processes too, if it's actually a hard product. So that tells you something about what your next set of steps are going to be. And as soon as you commit to something, if you commit to something prematurely and you learn something after the fact, then you have to back up on some work that you already done, which is rework, which is waste. So that's the kind of stuff that gets in the way. That's why in some cases you look at more than one design solution. Toyota is really good at this. They look at set-based design, which is more than one solution to the problem. Mm-hmm. And they figure out which ones of these solutions are provide the best overall solution and allow the solutions to contaminate each other to produce the ultimate solution.
The Scaled Agile Framework Enterprise Safe uses that approach for large-scale projects also. They suggest using set-based design. I mean, that makes a ton of sense, but if the thing that you're doing is you've got a boatload of tickets, because you're a ticket group, you're dealing with tickets, and they're all a bunch of small enhancements, you're probably not going to do set-based design.
No, that's incremental stuff. No, probably not.
But even when you're doing the incremental stuff, you're making a lot of decisions all the time. I mean, arguably, there might be little decisions, but I think you have to have some mechanism to determine when you can and can't make a decision. When you have to actually step back and say, it's no longer safe to make this decision without rework or cost overrun or things like that, or being late.
Yeah, then it probably matters. The attributes of what you're trying to do, what constitutes success, I think have to be well understood, and not just some vague objective. What are the details of what good looks like? Will allow you to at least say, am I on the right track to achieving good, looking at these combinations of things? And if I'm not, then I probably need to explore further and maybe even lateral, not just the thing that I'm looking at, whether it's or the approach that I'm scrutinizing presently, whether it's for a small incremental improvement or a whole new something. Knowing what good, having a sense of what constitutes good at the end, can help you decide whether you're on the right track to learn and what you need to learn next.
As the voice of product on the cast, who gets to decide what good looks like?
It's going to be the customer to a large degree, and it probably large, like significantly. But there are also things that the customer is not aware of, perhaps, when it comes to the design. If I'm designing something for another company, they're probably aware of the feature content, but there are going to be trade-offs in the course of that design regarding quality of the product too, in the environment that the customer may have it. And they may not be in a good position to make those kind of calls. So they have to be informed, whatever we have done in learning about the product. After all, if you're hiring me to do the work to build a particular product, I'm the one who's undergoing largely the design and the experience of the design and learning from creating the design, a little heavier than the person who's going to get the product. And it's my responsibility to transfer what I have found out, my team has found out, to you so that you're able to make informed decisions. That learning has to move out from the team and into the customer.
Last responsible moment has to be informed by what's good, What else would inform us as to when the last responsible moment for any decision might be?
The depending consequences for that. I think we either have to know those or theorize and test some of those theories about what that might be. So you have to be able to do some kind of thought experiment on, if I do this by this date, what happens next?
If it's really simple, it's probably fairly easy to do this. But when you get into, when the word product is involved, that's generally a more complex scenario. So who helps the team with when that last responsible moment might be?
Well, for a product that's being manufactured and has tooling and all these other things, you're going to have to get those people that understand all those pieces together and talk about that with the customer so that they understand these consequences also.
So do you do that when you have a decision, or do you keep the team informed along the way as to where in the process you are, what might be, what's still in play, what isn't in play?
I think you have to share that learning all along. You can't walk into somebody when you think you've learned all that you need to learn and drop a bomb on them, telling them what it is they're going to be doing. Because there's probably some parts of this puzzle that you don't know that they do. And the bomb you're dropping might be more like an egg. And they're like, well, that's good for you, but that doesn't work over here. And now you have learned everything you need to know, but nothing that I need. You may have missed me all throughout that whole.
Yow. So it is a group experience.
Yeah, it's a group experience. Yeah.
Jon, as always, it is absolutely marvelous to have these kind of conversations on the Software Process and Measurement Cast. Next time, we will tackle another chapter in the alpha and omega of product development.
I'm looking forward to it, Tom. These are interesting discussions. I really enjoy the conversation.
If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet? In the next SPaMCAST. Remember, we'll be on summer holiday. In lieu of new content, we'll present an interview released on December 27th, 2015 with Jerry Weinberg. We discuss quality and how quality is related to value. A talk with Jerry is always profound. However, I must admit that Jerry's humor caused me to laugh more times than I can count, and probably more times than I have before or after as an interview on the podcast. Mr. Weinberg died on August 7, 2018. I wish I had interviewed him more times for the podcast. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet? If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?